Welcome, everyone, to Handicapping with Stats Race Lens, a huge Saturday of racing ahead of us at Saratoga. I'm Dan Tordjman with America's Best Racing, joined by TVG's Christina Blacker and Ellis Starr from Equibase. Super excited to dig into this card. 4 graded stakes, 3 grade ones, 2 of them worth $1 million in the Saratoga Derby and the Whitney Stakes. We're going to dig into all of that action. And let you know about a couple of special offers from Stats Race Lens. If you don't have a subscription already, now is the time to get one. Christina, for those who don't use Stats Race Lens or haven't tried it yet, I know that you've had a lot of success using the product. I've seen your Twitter, I've seen your posts, I've seen the winners you found. When you're handicapping Saratoga specifically, how have you found that Stats Race Lens has helped you?
Yeah, Dan, for me, obviously, I'm a little bit more dialed into California racing, but the great thing about stats is that I can use the same sort of theories and the same types of tools to apply them to any racetrack, whether that's Saratoga or anywhere across the country that I'm going to go for that day. In the baby races, I love looking at siblings. I love looking at the dam's produce records. That's all there with one click. I watch a lot of replays when I'm studying. And so the trouble trip indicator really helps me save some time, because when you're talking about a 13 or 14 race card, you probably can't watch every single replay. So kind of driving my eyes to the races that I need to focus in on really helps me out with stats. And then any of those pre-populated angles, stats can find horses that I might not have the time to search for, but profiles that I like, angles that I like, that I can come back to and just use it every day. I watch a lot of replays. I am on stats every single morning as I'm preparing, and I'm able to watch a lot of Saratoga because we start later out here at Del Mar at 2:00 local time. So by that point, you're about 3/4, if not done, through the card at Saratoga. So I still feel pretty dialed into what's going on back east.
You know, you touched on pedigree, you touched on notes from watching replays. It's really tough to stay on top of everything. And so I find that, just like you, I'm like, I can have my notes and I can watch my replays, but I can't do it all. And when you set those, alerts on certain angles, or you customize searches to try to catch things that you might not have otherwise found, that's how I find it most useful. And Ellis, on days like today, your hardcore handicappers or even just hardcore fans of racing might say, I know the big horses that are going to show up on a day like Whitney Day. I know who's in the race. I mean, what is Stats Racing going to show me in those big races that I don't already know?
Well, I think you're right. You do know Axfield. You do know Nick's Go. Nick's Go is going to want the lead. But maybe the projection will show you something different. Maybe you think a horse could press. Maybe you'll find a horse with late speed. There's just a few things when they put them all together in the matchup, which the race projection does, which helps you maybe see something you may have not figured. And then you go and look at the PPs and you say, does that make sense? You also might see patterns you didn't see. Trainers start off a layoff, stretching out, shortening up, just not necessarily about the Whitney, but other things like that will lead you to make, what, this horse may not be the best horse, but he's definitely a horse I'm going to bet, because the best horse may not get the trip that he needs to win.
And right now we're looking at the main interface of Stats Race Lens. On the left side there, you see all the tracks for Saturday. There's even more. You scroll down and each race, each horse represented, all the data you need. And we're going to dig into customizing some of these searches, looking into the pace that Ellis referenced for all these big races. Before we get started, though, just wanted to mention 2 special offers right now. It is National Horse Players Championship month, the NHC, later this month in Vegas. So to celebrate that, Stats Race Lens is offering 2 special promos: a 1-month unlimited subscription to Stats Race Lens, normally $129. Right now, $50 when you use promo code NHC50. You can also get an unlimited quarterly subscription to Stats Race Lens for $99, and that promo code is NHC99. And that's a huge savings there, because the quarterly subscription is $299 normally. So get in on those promos. All right, let's get to the action. Race 7 Saturday at Saratoga. It's the Glens Falls, 1.5 miles on the inner turf for fillies and mares. I got a sneak peek of everyone's picks before we started, and surprisingly, I actually don't agree with Christina and Ellis on this race. We usually have something in common, so I'm interested in hearing what Christina and Ellis have to say about this race. Christina, let's start with you. Where were you drawn here?
Yeah, so it's a very good race, as they all are. We're going 1.5 miles on the inner turf course. I think there's a little case to be made that Call Me Love actually makes the lead and could keep on going. Christophe Clement had a sensational summer last summer. He's on pace to sort of keep up with that. She looks like the speed of the race. I think Warlike Goddess, the 3 horse, is probably the horse to beat. She was very impressive in the Bewitch at Keeneland, and she's 4 for 5 so far. She's a huge filly. She covers a lot of ground, and she just loves these marathon distances, as do all of the offspring of English Channel. But the horse that I like the best is the 4, actually, Orglande. She's a French bred. I want to pick up her replay from 2 starts back, and that was on November 26th of the fall meet here at Del Mar, actually. And I was on hand on this afternoon, and I think, you know, Chad Brown looking at this filly and just sort of considering the distances that she was competing in overseas, and we can actually go once around and then pick it up at the quarter pole, because they're going to go quite a ways here. They're going to go the full mile and 3/8. When you get a horse from Europe that's used to going that far, and you start thinking about bringing them to the States and thinking that they are going to go even farther here, it can be hard to find races and circumstances where they can be successful. And I think he was able to kind of hit that stride with her in the second start stateside, which was October 20th at Belmont, her win against Allowance Company. And then this race, shipping her out here to Southern California. She is the number 4 horse in this group. So she was favored that day. She's sitting against the rail. She's kind of tucking in, saving ground right now. And what I like most about this replay is that once she got clear sailing, she's one of those horses that really kind of lowers her belly and has that acceleration at the end of a marathon distance. You don't really get that very often. Irad had to be a little bit aggressive here to get her a spot to run, but you know that you're going to get that type of ride from him, and you'll see it again coming up this weekend. I think you can very clearly draw a line, and you can see right there where she really reaches, hits the wire. I think you can draw a line through her race in the Sheep's Head Bay. You know, she went to the sidelines. We haven't seen her since then. They've had to take some time. But the angle that I pulled up with stats is with regard to Chad Brown, her trainer. And it's pretty specific because we're coming off a layoff here. So we fall into the 61 to 180 day range. We are on the turf course. And I actually just set the distance where it says user defined maximum minimum. You can customize that. I set it right to the distance that we're competing, to 10 furlongs. And coming off that kind of a layoff, he does well. 12 for 49. You're talking about a 24% win rate, 49% in the money. I know this mare has the talent. I saw it with my own eyes, and I know that Chad Brown can get her ready in this circumstance. So I like Orglande to kind of rebound off a disappointing race last out, Dan.
That replay terrifies me. See, I knew I missed something. So that was impressive. That was really an impressive turn of foot there. You know, Ellis, Christina mentioned the pace briefly, where she said Call Me Love could get to the lead. For me, when I was looking at it, I thought maybe Dalika could go ahead and try to steal it on the front end, like she's done a couple of times. What did you think about the pace, and how did that impact the way you ultimately you know, handicapped this race and who you landed on?
Well, the pace was a no-brainer for me because the lead, I think, will have the lead. I'd be really surprised if she doesn't, because when you look the horses inside, you look at their running lines. If you go down, you'll see her last 2 running lines were on the lead and just off the pace. And if you just scroll, look at the other horses, if our producer wants to just scroll up to the 5 and the 4 and the 3 and the 2, you'll see no ones at all there. So I don't think there's much to do with pace. However, it's a question of how slow they go, and these are quality fillies and mares, so I think they can all put in a good last fraction no matter what. And I was really looking at that in terms of who can be close and then go by. So I landed on the 7 Luck Money, also a nice price, 8-1 morning line here. And I'm first looking at her race from October 31st, which is highlighted with Stats Racelands. Will let you highlight lines yourself and really call attention as you're handicapping, just like you do with pen and paper. In this case, that was 1.5 miles at Belmont. This is Agora, and she sat off the pace 4th, a couple lengths off. She did really well. That was a career best 104 figure. Now, we don't have to go back to War Goddess, Christina's pick, but also Warlike Goddess, one of the horses Christina mentioned. But Warlike Goddess is the 8-5 favorite. So if you think the race has to go through her, and you look at her last race, which again we don't need to do, her last figure was 102. Well, if you look at Luck Money, that was a 104. And now her first 2 races coming back off the layoff, if you move up to her June 13th race, she ran second to Blame Debbie in the searching. And then in the Robert Dick Memorial, she ran second to Delika, who wasn't wire to wire, but she did run second early and then led. But Luck Money got a 102 figure. And this is the third start of the year, which I've always believed is a peak effort. So she's going to run her best here. If we go to the true odds, and we look at the pace, except I'm not looking for early pace now, I'm looking for late pace. We can sort of the late pace category, and you can see Temple City Terror and Luck Money. Now, Temple City Terror is a horse that we don't need to go over. She's been beaten by Delika 3 times. She won the Curtana Stakes at Churchill. She's okay. I don't think she's as fast as these. So in my mind, Luck Money is the fastest late runner in the race, and I think she can run back. Go back real quick to her PPs, if we don't mind, and look back to that Zagora, and you'll see who rode her that day. And that was Javier Castellano, who has not ridden her since and gets back on. And that's one of the reasons I really think that is a representative race that she can run back plus start off a layoff. The other one I want to look at is the one Call Me Love. And we're all looking at prices here so far until we get to you, Dan, who I think might be on chalk.
I'm not on chalk.
Oh, good. Hey, Call Me Love comes off 2 wins in a row. The last at a mile and a half in the River Memories. Clement, the Rail, Junior Alvarado. I really think those last 2 PP lines are good. Then there was a problem. There was no time in the River Memory, so there's no figure. But when you go back and look at the Boston Spa last year, a 100, the Bogey, where she was second to Rushing Fall, 105. 96 in May. If you assume she'd improved, she could be right around that same number. So those are my 2. And then the chalk, the Gorlike Goddess and Delika, I would certainly use in pick 3s and 4s. Delika certainly for the exact and trifecta, because if she doesn't wire the field, she'll be around. But I'm landing on Luck Money as my main contender, but Call Me Love is probably going to get some action from me as long as she's anywhere near her 8-1 morning line.
All right. So you both like Call Me Love a little bit. You kind of see her getting there in different ways, I think, with other preferences around her. I'm actually, Ellis, going to go with the horse that you talked a bit of trash about, the 2 horse Temple City Terror.
Of course.
So for me in that last race, the Robert Dick Memorial, I actually saw the race a little differently. I know you like Luck Money because she stayed close to the pace and can stay close to the pace. But for me, because she was close enough and I didn't see her having much of an excuse, I didn't like the fact that she didn't close, that she didn't make a more powerful move to finish and that she sort of flattened out late. To my eyes, I actually want to go back and look at this replay real quick if we could. And let's go to like the 2-minute mark in this video. The horse that we're looking at here, Temple City Terror, is the 5 horse, and she'll be on the rail if we pick it up right before the turn. So you can see now here, Luck Money is the 7 and is kind of making a little bit of a move here, much closer to the pace now. And still back down on the rail, the green there of the saddle towel, Temple City Terror. She's going to try to make a move here. The red stilts, you're going to see she just gets caught in between horses. And unlike that replay we saw earlier with Orglans, where she managed to bull her way through, here you see a tip out there from Temple City Terror. And it's only here in the very, very late stages. And I promise you, she wasn't running this slowly. This is the slow-mo. that is a little bit of a glitchy, slower replay. She was flying late, absolutely flying late. And you could see there, she's going to gallop out really nicely, Temple City Terror. And so again, once she got that clear running, and to Ellis's point, when you look again at that Stats Race Lens True Odds page, you get the late pace figures there. The late pace figure 117.5. That is the best of any horse in this race. I think she's the horse going to make the biggest move from off the pace. Now, if we go back to the PPs one more time with her, you go 2 races back and you've got her career best 106 Equibase speed figure. So let's see, yep, there it is right there, 106 Equibase speed figure for Temple City Terror. That was her only time at this distance and over firm ground. That last race that you saw was over soft ground. And I think that she prefers firm ground. She's only 1 for 6 over soft ground. So I think with the ground expected to be firm, hopefully on Saturday, Temple City Terror is a real danger. And I just want to show you a little bit of a customized search here. Tyler Gaffleone remounts. He was aboard for her win on debut. He gets the ride again for Brendan Walsh. And you could do specific searches here. One that I did was using today's jockey Walsh and Gaffleone in turf races, all stakes races the past 3 years on the turf. When they team up, look at those numbers: 18 starts, 7 wins. 7 wins out of 18 starts, 12 in the money. Those are in stakes on the turf. Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone. I think Tyler Gaffleone, I've said it a number of times, top 3 turf rider in the country. And I think him getting back on a horse that he's won on before too was another positive. That combined with what I saw as a visible excuse to make Temple City Terror, I think a very intriguing play, especially if that price holds at 6-1. So I do want to also mention just briefly the 5 horse, My Sister Nat. I think she's the class of this field. Finished second in this race last year, won the Weah at Saratoga in her race prior. She's just, on any given day, she could turn up with an effort that is just better than these. And so I think you've got to respect her. The price will be short. She doesn't seem to be in quite as good a form as she was last year at this time. So you could say, look, maybe she's lost a step, but I think on class, My Sister Nat deserves some respect. So, all right, we can move on now to race 8, another intriguing race here. With a number of really nice fillies going 7 furlongs on the dirt. This is the Longines Test Stakes. Ellis, I'm going to let you start this one off. I know there are a couple of horses here, a couple of prices too that you've been drawn to in this race.
Yeah, I understand why the morning line. Chad Brown takes money always. Karina 3-1. Search results 5-2. I think there's 2 better horses in the race. I'm going to start with the 8 on the outside, Bella Sophia. Bella Sophia, first of all, just dominant first out. You can see 11 length win, second in the Jersey Girl with Luis Saez, both of those. Then comes back and wins an allowance race. You'll notice that allowance race, you go to the age columns 3 and up. Now she's dropping back to 3-year-olds only. So that is something to consider about Bella Sophia. Also, it's very interesting that Rudy Rodriguez, we know how much he wins races everywhere, but I ran a stat on Rodriguez looking everybody in this race because these are young fillies and trainers have to have a knack keeping him informed. So I'm looking first of all at him. When the horse won its last time out and today's race is a stakes. Well, there's Rodriguez, 14 for 51, 27%, plus 42 ROI. And right on top, you'll see there's a horse that fits the bill with Luis Saez at 12-1. Which is also incredible. Now, if you want to match them up, since for the most part, we'll click on the show all button, which matches all the trainers up with the same statistic, which is one thing Stats Raceland does very well. And even though 2 of the horses ran second in their last races, 1 ran 4th, if you just say, okay, they all won their last race, what does this look like? And when you look at this particular one and you look at the percentages, you can click on the win percent. You can see Baffert, of course, but Baffert's horse is coming out of a maiden race. When you look at return on investment, if you sort on the ROI column, you'll see Rodriguez, that 42% is top in the field. And certainly it's a decent number of starts, 51 starts, 27%. It proves that Rodriguez keeps his horses in form and can decide when they go to stakes. Plus, she's got an allowance win, again, back to Baffert's horse coming out of a maiden win, who is 12-1, but probably get bet down because it's Baffert. So certainly Bella Sophia looks at everything. Let's go back to PPs. And look at those figures again. You look at those figures of Bella Sophia, you'll see 108, 105, and 112. Now, just if you want to compare to the chalk, real quick, we'll flop out to this, go down 1 to the 7. So search results, you can just scroll and you'll see 103, 103, 103. And the other favorite, the 5, always Karina. And you'll see a 105 last time out. Bella Sophia is already faster. I don't know why she's 8-1, but I'll certainly take every ounce of 8-1. Real quick, go to the true odds. And we'll also see one more interesting thing here because a lot of these fillies have shown a need to lead. Well, the true odds projects Bella Sophia to be in front. With an outside post, it doesn't mean she has to be because we all know she could sit a little bit off the pace. That's an outside post gives a jockey the advantage of. So she's got an edge. She's the fastest horse in the field. She might be on the lead. We know she doesn't have to be on the lead. And she projects on top. Also, if you look at the true odds itself, if you sort on the adjusted true odds, or if you just look at the win percentage on the projection, she's the top projected horse. Her fair odds are 5-2. She's 6-1. So she's certainly the horse. Real quick, we'll go back to PP's, look at the 3 Zajiel, if I'm saying it right, or Zajiel. Another horse at 8-1, coming off of 106, still better than the favorites, faster, won the Mother Goose. That's a 1-turn mile, 16th at Belmont, cutting back to 7 furlongs, so that's fine. This horse has no knocks. It'll already beat always Karina, but yet opens at higher odds here. And then the 2 Super Sensational. Let's talk about another one here, 6-1. Last race figure of 104, faster than one of the 2 favorites, at least search results, as fast as always Karina, and yet 6-1, 6.5 furlongs, victory ride, no knocks. I have no problem here in this race using Bella Sophia's Zajiel Super Sensational in my pick 3s, pick 4s, and trying to beat the chalk completely here.
I like it. 3 horses, all over 6-1 in the morning line. We've talked a little bit about the pace in this race in particular. Bella Sophia has got some speed on the outside. Of course, always Karina's got speed. Christina, it looks like you may like another horse who has some speed down on the rail. We've touched on Illumination a little bit. Obviously, a horse based in California. Tell us a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on her a little bit. She's not my top pick. I actually took the opposite kind of view of Ellis. I think the favorite is going to be tough in here, search results. But with Illumination, I just wanted to talk about her. And let's take a look at the replay of her last race, June 4th. We'll just jump to the quarter pole home. This filly, they have had such high hopes for since her debut about this time last summer, August 15th, 2020. Not many people were traveling or going anywhere, and all of her owners flew here to Del Mar to watch her debut. They, I think, were very disappointed to not see her start winning races immediately and go win to win to win to win. She finally just broke her maiden in this race that you're looking at. But for whatever reason, whatever it was, whether it was adding Lasix on this occasion or just needing the time to grow into herself, she wins this race geared down. It was very easy 8-length victory for her. And she is very fast. She gets that first point of call in each and every race. So I think she's a threat because I think she's finally kind of putting it all together to what the expectations have been for this filly all along. And how Ellis was talking about, the pace in here with Bella Sophia in those last couple of races, even though she did rate a little bit, they were sending her away from there. I think Luis Saez is going to send her. And I think that she's going to have another filly right there with her by virtue of the post position and because she's just as fast in Illumination. And with those 2, it looks like something's got to give to me. Always Karina could be involved in that duel as well. So I came back to search results. I think she's very, very classy. It took the Kentucky Oaks to get her beat. She can rate. She has shown that in many of her races. She's very professional. I've been watching her works in the morning. She blew Always Karina away in the morning when the 2 of them were working together. And I think she's far and away the better of the Chad Brown horses in here. And I think she's going to end up getting a pretty good trip. And the cutback, I think, is a good thing for her because I feel like they were stretching her as far as the distance goes, especially in the Kentucky Oaks and in the Gazelle. So I'm looking at the favorite in here. I didn't go for the big money like Alice did, Dan.
Well, I like where you landed. It's hard to disagree with the top choice in this race. I also like where Ellis landed with Bella Sophia. I think they're probably the 2 horses that, if I had to say, which horses are coming into this race right and should really appreciate this distance, specifically with search results, you would think she gets a dream setup. And Bella Sophia does have that tactical edge being drawn outside with the speed. I'm just going to go to one other horse here that I think you've got to use on your tickets, and that would be the 4 Obligatory. You mentioned kind of horses that enjoy a cutback. This isn't a huge cutback, a mile to 7 furlongs. But I think it really does do make a world of difference for Obligatory. She made the biggest move from off the pace in the Acorn Stakes last out. She was under this ride and eventually closed a ton of ground late. And she didn't exactly get a blistering pace to close into in that race. So I thought, considering how far back she was, that was impressive. And then the last time we saw her at 7 furlongs, she actually won the Grade 2 8 Bells. So that's the race you see highlighted there. Made another spectacular move from way off the pace. Obviously, there were a few more horses in that race, and they went fast. And so if we're talking about going fast, I have a hard time not seeing this horse making a late move. A trainer stat I wanted to pull up here, some research the past 5 years. in dirt races, in graded stakes. And you could also, I love this, I mean, you could search specifically by today's track. So you could look for Saratoga. If they're running at Del Mar, you could search Del Mar, wherever. But if you want to know who has their horses ready to run in graded stakes races on the dirt, you could use this specific search, because not everyone is winning graded stakes races on the dirt at Saratoga. They might be winning at Belmont. They might be winning at Aqueduct, Rudy Rodriguez, but not everyone is winning graded stakes races at Saratoga. Bill Mott, though, is winning 19% over the past 5 years. And that in the money number is the number that kind of blew me away. 77% in the money. That's a ridiculous number. I mean, you see Chad Brown on the turf with those numbers. You don't see many other trainers posting 77% in the money numbers with graded stakes runners from a 31 race sample. So I thought that was a very encouraging sign. I think you're going to get a fair price on this one as well. 4-1 on the morning line. I think you get every bit of 4-1. Unless I'm missing something, I think Always Korean is going to take a good amount of money. I think Search Results is going to be pounded as well. So I land on obligatory for a little bit of value here, but a lot of respect for the cases that Christina and Ellis made for Bella Sophia and Search Results. All right, we will move on to our next race here. Another really good, fun betting race, 1 3/16 on the turf. It's the Saratoga Derby Invitational. Number of ways we can go here, looking at the various selections that Christina and Ellis sent in. I know you guys agree on one horse in particular. Christina, I'll let you start making the case for Bolshoi Ballet.
Yeah, so I'll just touch on Bolshoi Ballet briefly, because I think Ellis can really dive into the form on that horse. But he's the 6th horse in here, and he didn't have any real pace to chase at all in that Belmont Derby last out. I know it was a good turf course at the 1.25 mile, but Ryan Moore rode a masterful race. So we'll let Ellis take over for that one in a minute. But I did want to talk about a couple other horses. Let's jump to the 10 Flashiest. This is the horse coming in from Southern California for Leonard Powell. And I want to take a look at the replay of the Oceanside, our traditional opening day feature down here. It was July the 16th. So we're coming back in about a month's time for him. And I loved him on this day. I'm going to say he made my opening day, certainly at that 13-1. I was very, very surprised we ended up getting this kind of a price on Flashiest. He has only been defeated once, though, and that was starts back at the 1 1/8. And I thought, taking a look at that race, it looked like they were stretching him a little bit distance wise. So now for this Saratoga Derby, we're going the 1 3/16. And as you watch when they come for home here with him, he's in the hot pink silks of Gary Barber. Abel Cedillo is aboard. He's just kind of making his move outside. He was clearly the best horse on this day, had to go wide as they turn for home, but he's still a little green to me. Watch him kind of get in a little bit. He's just a tiny bit late on the lead change. He wants to lean towards the rail again. He's gravitating towards his competition. You can see that right rein really having to go after it with Cedillo. I think this is a very, very talented horse, but I don't think he's ready for these horses yet. So if you're looking at the California runner, that's just my opinion on him surface level. Leonard Powell has had some minor success shipping horses in. He sent Neige Blanche for one of these big races last year. She ran 3rd. He knows when to ship them, but I really feel like Flashiest needs just a little bit more time. I wanted to give a couple notes on the one horse at the rail as well. I think the bookends are going to be the horses that are the most interesting to me. Soldier Rising is a horse that is 2 for 4 lifetime. His 2 losses have come to a horse in France by the name of Fenelon. I looked him up. Fenelon is nearly undefeated. He ran 2nd in his debut, and Fenelon is trained by Nicolas Clement, Christophe Clement's brother. So now this horse comes here to the Clement barn in the States. I think his brother, somehow they've been watching this horse and knowing, look, you can't obviously buy your brother's horse and bring him here, but this one is the next best thing right now in France. And especially if we get any kind of rain, I think it's going to flatter a horse coming out of a race like that. So Soldier Rising is one I think you really, really need to keep an eye on. I watched his works on XBTV. He has that real long body, huge stride, similar to what we saw from Orglon for Chad Brown's barn, covers a ton of ground. But the horse that I'm going to bet is going to be King Fury to the outside. King Fury was the horse that we were also excited about going into the Kentucky Derby, right? Because he was training so well. Unfortunately, he came up with a fever. He didn't end up getting to compete that day. And he loves Churchill Downs. And year in, year out, we talk about horses that like Churchill Downs ending up being horses that like the turf. This horse is a son of Curlin. He's out of a fast mare in Terrace that Simon Callahan trained. There isn't really a whole lot of turf pedigree there, but he moves like a turf horse. He has that sort of suspension and that bounce to his stride. I think he's going to love it. The stat I came up with to sort of help support the idea is trainer Kenny McPeak in the last 5 years in graded stakes here at Saratoga. I think that Kentucky horsemen sometimes have a hard time keeping up a little bit in New York. Kenny McPeak, it's a small stat. It's not a whole lot of runners. He's 3 for 11, so he's 27% in the stakes races here at Saratoga. I think that's good enough to know that he knows when he can take a shot, and he's kind of looking outside the box with this horse. So I think that supports it enough to sort of, get behind the fact that you're looking at a price source. And then the last thing on him, Dan, and then I'll let Ellis take over, is the late pace page for True Odds. I don't generally use late pace when we're talking about different surfaces and distances. And here, I'd prefer, obviously, if this was all on turf and we had an idea of exactly how fast he can finish on the turf, but you can see he finishes his races really well. And I think there's a very good argument to be made that he's going to be able to finish faster on a firmer, harder turf course if he gets it. So I'll be betting the bookends one way or the other. I'm going to watch the weather. If it comes up soft, it's Soldier Rising along the inside. If it comes up firm, it's King Fury for me on the outside.
Okay. And just so we're clear, I know you yielded to Ellis on Bolshoi Ballet. Do you not think Bolshoi Ballet is a win contender here?
No, I definitely do. I think he's the horse to beat. I think based on what he showed us last time, he's the horse to beat, but he's going to be bet. He's going to be the favorite. And so I'm going to use him probably on any kind of tickets, but I want to bet the other two to win and try to find a price.
I'd never knock that. I like that. Ellis, the floor is yours on Bolshoi Ballet.
Well, I will say that Christina and I are totally off on this race, totally apart, I should say. And I'm not to Knox, but the reason I didn't use Soldier Rising is because he has not run in a group race, even though he did run well against Fenelon, and the other horse I'm going to talk about did of the Euros, and King Fury, because I just don't think it's a great idea to be starting a horse in a grade 1 race on turf that's never run on turf before when you've got proven horses. I know Kenny's taking a shot, and on numbers he stacks up. I'm all Euro all the time except for Soldier Rising here. In the Belmont Derby, I just looked at the race. We know the Europeans have a just amazing turn of foot. They can release it in a second, in a flash. Both the filly and Bolshoi Ballet won their big races that day. Bolshoi Ballet came home in 23 flat into a horribly slow pace when he won the race, and he got a 107 figure. You look back here at this Derby trial, we got a 113 figure in May, and then he was the favorite, 7-5 favorite in a field of 11 in the Irish Derby, and he didn't run a lick, and he certainly rebounded. That's why he was 6-5 in the Belmont Derby. I was lucky enough that day because I loved the Euros. I played in a contest, and I played $100 straight exact to Bolshoi Ballet over Tokyo Gold, the two imports, which got me third in the Derby. And actually, somebody already qualified for the NHC, so I've got a 2022 NHC seat because of Bolshoi Ballet. So I'm not going to complain about that. He is 2-1 here. Certainly a good horse. I'm going to go outside to the 9 State of Rest, one of the other 2 Euros. And this is a horse I really, really like. State of Rest, if you look at his race from last year, the Champagne Stakes at Doncaster, and 12 September, he ran, beaten a length, beaten a nose for second. I watched the video, which you can find. He was 6th early on the rail. He shifted out. He flew home. I think he was best because he really had to find a place to run. Johnny V gets on as opposed to the normal Europeans. O'Brien will normally use, like the other two of the other ones are using European jockeys, Foley and Moore, but there's no knock on Johnny riding this horse. And I think it's going to be second off that layoff from October to June. There's no stats here because Joe O'Brien doesn't have a lot of horses. This is strictly handicapping, knowing how fast the Euros are, watching that race on video, which you can get, and looking at that 110 figure, which is a converted figure. We do have great thing about Race Lens is it has all apples to apples comparisons of Equibase feed figures, so you can see the 110. We're going to go to the 6 Bolshoi Ballet real quick. Can't knock him again. 107 last time out for his US debut, the 113 before that. Did I go to the 9? I'm sorry, State of Rest real quick. Did I 110 figure? We talked about that. Make sure that's clear. So I'm going to go back to Bolshoi Ballet and the comparison, the 107. Into a slow pace, closed quickly, certainly no knocks. Go to the true odds and we'll look at his, actually not true odds. I'm sorry, I apologize. Go back to PPs. You don't need to do that. If you look under the projected ratings, early, middle, late for Bolshoi Ballet, you'll see a 112.5, which is the second best in the field, which means he did project very, very well. Again, this is a projected rating, being the second fast closer in this race again. And now we can go to true odds and sort on late pace and see if there's anybody else that would be interesting here, because late pace is going to be the key. King Fury is the number 1 late, but again, that's based on dirt, not on turf. After that, it's a nice drop off to the other horses. Then we're going to go to the last Euro, Cadillac, another getting his European rider in Shane Foley for Jessica Harrington, a really fantastic European trainer. Comes off a career best 108 at 1.25 miles. So this 1.16 miles is not a problem. It was a group 3. Again, that's the reason Soldier Rising wasn't on my list, even though Christina could be right. But State of Rest running in group 2, group 1, Cadillac running in group 3, Bolshoi Ballet winning that group 3 I referred to, and then the Irish Derby, and then the Belmont Derby. Of course, this was a big race. He was 5th early. He got the 2-path. It was a 4-horse photo by a nose. It was a tremendous effort. He fits on all counts. He's going to be lower odds than that. So I'm looking at State of Rest, Bolshoi Ballet, and Cadillac to pretty much dominate this race. I honestly would be very surprised if any American horses were in the top 2.
You were making the case for all the Euros, and you're saying apples to apples. I was hoping you were going to say apples to Appleby, and that would have been a really nice transition to Secret Protector, the 7 horse. So again, I don't know too much about this horse. I could see that he's like group 3 placed, last out, ran a nice race at Ascot and the Hampton Court Stakes. But I will say, as far as Charlie Appleby goes, the past 3 years, I think he's figured out which horses to send over here. We've seen Altica and Summer Romance as 2 most recent examples, but he's winning at about 36% from the horses he sent over the past 3 or 4 years. So I would always be concerned, leaving off an Appleby horse at this point, especially with Mike Smith up. I remember of the nightcap on Belmont Stakes Day, had a horse who ran a really nice race, I think finished 2nd, and could have won that race too. I thought it was curious that Mike Smith stuck around to ride that horse. So anyway, Secret Protector, I think if you're using the Euros, I would be interested in that one as well. Warfront $800,000 purchase. So the horse that I like, I know Ellis, is a little leery of using any of the non-Euros. And, sometimes I would say, there's, I might that might, prove true. But I like Cellist, the 8 horse, a little bit. And the reason is, I think this is a horse who wants to be on the lead, couldn't get loose last out, had to sit just off of Bolshoi Ballet. And so didn't have quite the same finish that I think, they would have liked to have seen from him. He kind of hung a little bit at the end. And so, but I think in this race, I think you might see, he finished 2nd, 3rd to Bolshoi Ballet there. That day, though, there was another horse whose name is completely escaping me, who was on the front end. Hard Love was the horse who had the lead. That horse isn't here. So the bottom line is, Cellist, I think, gets to the front, is able to settle down and run a race that looks a lot more like the Audubon Stakes 2 races back with Leparoux up there. That was a wire-to-wire job. And so, I think you see some good progression with this horse. The couple of races, the last few races have looked solid to me. I didn't see the horse, fade because he was taken out of, a running style that had worked for him in the race before. I think if there's any horse that's going to get loose and hang on at a big price, it's Cellist. Might not be good enough to hold off the Euros, but for me, Cellist, I think, is interesting. The early races in the career, we've mentioned the red trouble indicators on the right side there on the bottom. All those little red arrows there indicate in all those races the horse ran into some trip trouble. So I see excuses where you'd hope to find them. And I think if everything goes right, this is a horse who could at least hit the board, I think, at a pretty big price. So that's my
Can
outsider.
I ask a question? I have a question for both of you guys. Was so surprised going through this race to not see anything from Chad Brown's barn. And to Ellis's point, that the Euros all look so strong compared to any of the American runners. I mean, is he not entering because of that? Because we're seeing this pattern, right? These $1 million races in New York, the last year and a half or so, it keeps going to the Euros. Is he sitting back and saying, I'm not going to waste a run. I'm just going to wait for the $500,000 race when they're not here? Or does he actually not have anything that would have fit this race?
I'll tell you, this is a great point, Christina, and I'm going to put our producer on the spot real quick to click on that chart line, that date of July 10th that's sitting up right now on Chalice. We'll look at that chart because that was the equivalent race at Belmont, and we'll see, if you look at trainer, did Brown have a horse in that race? He didn't have a race in the Belmont Derby either. And I just wonder if you're right, Christina. I was thinking maybe he did and he got beat and he said, I'm not going against the Euros again. So that's interesting. And this is a great thing about race lenses. You can answer that question like that. Hey, how come Brown's avoiding it? Did he run in the last $1 million race? Well, it turns out the answer is no, he didn't. So we can close that now. But that's an example of that. So that does kind of lead me to agree with you, Christina. I think he's avoiding the Europeans.
Yeah, I think he's realized that, and he himself has had a lot of nice horses from Europe, right? They've gone to the Tattersall sale. He's bringing them. So maybe he doesn't have one from that batch that's ready right now, but I think he's picking his spots and thinking, I'm not going to waste a run when these horses are coming from Europe and they're superior.
I think that's also the most plausible theory here. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. I think it does add some interesting context to the whole handicapping picture. Let's move on to the feature on Saturday. Race 10 is the Whitney Stakes, 1 mile and 1/8 on the dirt. This also happens to be another win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup Classic. A couple of these are going to be on their way anyway. Maxfield in particular won the Stephen Foster last out, which is also winning your in. So barring anything unforeseen, he is well on his way and is I would think, prohibitive favorite here at this very moment, ranked number 1 in the Breeders' Cup rankings as well, the classic rankings. So how do we see this race unfolding? We can tackle it a couple of different ways. I think, we've seen time and time again with a 5-horse field in a big race, all sorts of pace handicapping, and you could throw that out the window because the riders will decide what they want to do in these races. And you will time and time again be frustrated if you anticipate that each horse is going to run exactly to their previous running styles, because it just doesn't happen in these small races. So horses that are deep closers tend to be more forwardly placed. Horses that are speed horses will sometimes try things that are a little different, and you'll find them vying with other horses as opposed to being completely clear on the lead. So I'll shut up now, and I'll pass it back to Christina for your best guess as to how this race might unfold.
Let's start with Nick's Go with the 4-horse. I think he's going to be on the lead. We can pick up the replay from his last race from the Cornhusker, and I just kind of, as they turn for home, take a look at how he's moving. And we talk a lot when you're looking at horses, whether they're working in the mornings or whether they're kind of in the afternoons, you watch their ears a little bit, and that kind of gives you an indication of how much effort they're putting forth to go that fast or how easily they are going that fast. And his ears just go back and forth the whole length of the stretch here. He's looking around. What else can I do? What else do you need? How much faster should I go? I think when Nick's Go is freaky good, like he is right now, he's certainly a force to be reckoned with. And I was skeptical going into this race. You had the poor race in Saudi for him back in February, the poor race in the Met Mile. And Brad Cox was very determined. He keeps training well in the mornings. We need to get him back around 2 turns. So we're going to try to guess. I think Nick's Go, they're going to send him because that's how he's happy. That's how he runs best. That's how he gets brave. And that's how he just keeps on going. When it comes to Maxfield, the number 5 horse, he's certainly the class. He's got so much class. And the only time he was defeated was at Santa Anita in the big cap. And I spent some time with Brendan Walsh that week. And I think that it was coming back a little quick for him off the effort in the mine shaft, which was just about 3 weeks prior. And I think that was a concern going into the race, and that Brendan might have, been worried about coming back quickly with him. So I think you can give him a pass for the one defeat of his career. But I don't know. Saratoga's a graveyard of favorites, right? I'm not saying that I am sure this is going to happen, but I saw something interesting on By My Standards, the one down along the inside. First thing is, he ran in this race last year. And if you take a look, he was second to Improbable. And that was one of the best races of his career, that 113 Equibase speed figure. That's the highest that we've seen from him. So I think you have to give him a little extra credit in that he does really like Saratoga. He has a very strong record at the distance as well. He's 3 for 6 at the distance. He's second in a couple of others. Now he's not running into the Knicks Goes this year and the Maxfields this year. And I think that there's a case to be made that By My Standards was a little better last year than he is this year. But I just found those two things to be a little bit intriguing in case the race falls apart. And then the stat that I pulled, and this is just surprising, and I'm not sure that I am going to use this to really sell myself on By My Standards for this race. But it was one of those things that as I was digging through this race, I'm going to remember this and I'm going to use it as I handicap in the future. I'm going to save this angle, and I want to find other horses that kind of fit the bill. And it's with regard to his sire, Golden Sense. So Golden Sense to me, when he was racing, out himself, there was a lot of talk about distance for him. Did he have distance limitations? How far could he go? He was so brilliantly fast. But if you look at him specifically at 9 furlongs on this circuit in New York, I was really surprised by this. 2 for 5, 40% win rate. I know it's very small, but 100% in the money. I think that's intriguing. And so I'm going to give the offspring of Golden Sense a little more credit going a little farther from now on. That was my real takeaway as far as this race goes that I think I can use in the future. But I think ultimately, Dan, I think Knicks Go wins the race. I think he gets out there on the front end. He's so fast. He's so freaky right now. And I think he doesn't come back to them.
So I could tell based on the way Ellis reacted to my setup for this race that he was scoffing at the idea that anyone could go with Knicks Go. And then, of course, I laid it out. You slammed it home. Knicks Go is going to get to the lead. And that's it. That's all there is to this pace scenario. Before I kick it to Ellis, I want to propose an alternative scenario. Here's the alternative. Swiss Skydiver scratched out of the Ogden Phipps due to a fever. Then her barn was locked down thanks to equine herpes virus, or else she would have run in the Coaching Club American Oaks. She gets IRAD for the first time. I'm throwing out random facts. The fact that she hasn't run since April, I think without a doubt, she is going to be sharp. She is going to be headstrong. She is going to fire out of the gate. The fact that her rider is Irad Ortiz Jr., who has been known to get speed out of horses from the gate, especially horses that generally lay close to the pace, I think we're going to see her more forwardly placed. And then you go back to her prime and her peak last year. What did she do in the Santa Anita Oaks? She got to the lead and she won. Next race, the Bluegrass Stakes, went to the lead, lost to Art Collector, but ran a great race. The Alabama laid close, ended up winning. And then you come back to this year and she's been, or later in the year, obviously in the distaff, she didn't get to the front. In the Beholder Mile, she did do it from slightly off the pace. But then in the Apple Blossom last out, she sat off a Latruska. And I think what I've learned about Swiss Skydiver, and I assume they have learned about her as well, is that she is best when she has at most one target in front of her. But she is pretty darn good when she's either on the lead or comes off that turn at the throat latch of the other horse, or the horse that's on the lead. I don't think she wants to pass 2 or 3 horses. I don't think they can afford to try that in this spot against the boys. So I think they send her, and I think on her best day, she's at least fast enough to stay within a half a length of Knicks Go. And I think that we are unlikely to see Irad and Jose just all out duel. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Jose lets Irad go and lets Swiss Skydiver dictate. Ellis, what do you think?
You don't sacrifice a horse in a race of this caliber just to make a point, Dan. It's just not going to do it.
But we saw what happened when Knicks Go went 46-1 in the Met Mile.
Look at
46
the Pegasus. So let me use the example. The Pegasus World Cup, Knicks Go, 9 furlongs on the dirt, no Lasix, went 46, 109, and 4/5. Swiss Skydiver, the only time she faced 46 and 109 was the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She was 4.5 off. She has no hope of being with him. Now she can sit second. I think there's a very good chance that she sits second off Knicks Go for the 1/4.5. I don't know that she can outfinish some of the other horses in here, and I love her to death. This was a call he had to make because, as you said, the virus and having to miss the Coaching Club American Oaks. Knicks Goes to controlling speed, no question. Do I think Knicks Go wins? Yeah. Do I think there's a chance he loses? Maybe. And with Christina, I'm happily on the same page if I think that was her top pick, because I like By My Standards. Short field, big price. I'll come back and Knicks Go in a second. But when you go to By My Standards, first of all, last year's Whitney, look at the trouble line, awkward break, no chance against Improbable in the stretch, held off Tom's d'Etat, who had just beaten him in the Foster last year. Career best 113 figure, wins the Ali Sheba, couple of bombs, takes 5 months off, comes back, wins the Oaklawn Mile, and then that race in the Met. And I was going to show the stats in a second, but I want to switch up a little bit. I want to click on the video for the Met Mile. And you will see By My Standards, it's not as clear on the pan, but By My Standards and the trouble line we'll see in the PPs just got first brushed the gate again, like at last year's Whitney, and then really Knicks Go comes over and you'll see the blue cap there, boom, 3 lengths back. Okay, immediately 3 lengths back. Okay. He hadn't ever closed from more than 2 or 3 back. Now he's 6 back. It killed him. We can look at the end now. If you want to fast forward a little bit or let it run, doesn't matter. He's going to gather himself up under Saez. He's not going to give up. And that rally, in my opinion, in the last maybe 16th, under the last 16th, when he's going to come on, was fantastic. In the end, he gets beat a length, which is more than the 3 lengths he lost when he hit the gate and then got bumped by Knicks Go and really had to check back. I think that makes him a strong play in this race. Now, again, it's the pace, but when we get back to his PPs, we'll see. I mean, right now you can see he's 5th. He's biding his time. The pace is fairly strong, 46 to 110, which you'll see again here. And Gabe Saez is going to go wide the whole way on By My Standards. And he's actually going to go pretty wide as well. At Belmont, it's not as bad because Belmont is that big cavernous track. He's sitting right now. He's in 4th. He's going to angle all the way out. And he's not really going to do much. Kind of looks like he's going up and down a little bit until the last, I say under 16th again, when he's going to come flying into Silver State. You see, right now, it still doesn't look like he's doing much at all. And then all of a sudden, he picks it up. He says, I'm going to give this a shot. And all Saez is doing is driving. No whip, no nothing. Gets beat a length. I think it's closer to 3/4. We can close the video now. So we saw that. I think he would have won the race with a better trip. And he certainly got beat less than what he lost by having the problem at the beginning. Now we're going to go to Brett Calhoun. And every horse in this race comes out of a winner or second place finish or in the money finish. So we're going to switch to this. This is going to be 5 years dirt route, greatest stakes in the money last out. So look at Calhoun real quick here. He keeps his horses in form, 23% wins, 64% ROI. Let's see how that stacks up because you've got 5 good trainers here. So you go to show all and you sort, you don't have to sort. On the ROI, you could see Calhoun is number 1. Everybody's good here in terms of win percentage. Calhoun's right there with Cox and Walsh in terms of win percentage with a horse that was in the money last out if today's race is a graded stakes. So we'll go back to the PPs, and that race By My Standards came out of also, and click on the chart for that race, the chart link, and you'll see the circles. Automatically Stats Race Lens tells you if a horse won its next start. Knicks Go came out of that race, we know he won the Cornhusker. Dr. Post came out of that race And I wrote it down. If we don't have to go to it, he won a stakes in Monmouth, I believe. And Lexington, we know, posted the huge upset last week. So this is a key race to which Nitsko's already come back out of. By My Standards was second. Mischievous Alex didn't run well. The other three all ran big. I think My Standards is absolutely going to outrun his 10-1 odds here. Real quick, Nitsko, we talked about certainly the best horse on figures. We go to the Nitsko, the 4, you'll see the 117, the 115. By My Standards, again, last year was a 113, so a little slower, but not much. And then Maxfield, can't knock him, 5 for 5. The most recent race at 9 furlongs, the Foster, 107. He could have gone faster. He did 115, the Ali Sheba. Certainly the contenders. I'm going to bet By My Standards to win and hope that Nitsko just finds a little hink in his armor as far as a win bet. I'm certainly going to use By My Standards Nitsko in any pick 3s and pick 4s. I'm probably going to stop at that.
All right. Don't mind hearing both of you like in a 10-1 shot there. By My Standards in the mix. Surprised to not hear either of you make too much of a case or any case for Silver State. I mean, the horse that beat By My Standards. Christina, how do we feel about Silver State?
Yeah, he's a horse that's on quite a tear, right? I mean, he's 4 for 4 this year, and you add to that the couple of wins in 2020. He's won his last 6 races in a row. I think that if I'm looking at his 1.8 race at Oaklawn, and if I'm kind of considering when I'm stacking him up against these types of horses at this distance, Fearless, Express Train, who I think we'll see in the Pacific Classic, I don't know that that's enough. You know, those aren't the Nitskos and the Swiss Skydivers and Maxfields of this division. And so I think if we were, you know, back to a race around 1 turn, then I'd be looking at Silver State again. But I think he's a very good horse. I can't knock him, but I think when you start to get to this distance, some of the others look like they're separating themselves a little bit on class.
Yeah, and I actually, you know, I totally agree. And I thought that if anything, you could make the case that, you know, he got the setup right last out. The rail opened wide open for him when Nitsko drifted out into the turn. Silver State did what he had to do. He did hold off Mischievous Alex, as Ellis mentioned a moment ago, didn't come back on a great race last out, but also that late charge by My Standards. But really that race played to Silver State's advantage at every step. So I think there's a case to be made against him there. I didn't get, based on any of your reactions to my Swiss Skydiver theory, that either of you are in love with her. Ellis, any case for Swiss Skydiver?
I love her. I mean, I love her to death. She's just not fast. Her, if you just look, I'm just going to go on her figures: 111, 111, 110. Those don't stack up to the 114s and 117s and 115s. She did beat the Mills last year in the Preakness. You know, she caught Authentic. I don't see her being fast enough to do it now. Under one scenario, as you said, if she's the one that stalks Nitsko and gets first run on him, there's a chance. But that would be the only scenario where By My Standards and Maxfield don't have the kick.
So you're saying there's a chance.
That's your takeaway. Okay, got it. Yep.
All right, look, this is a very fun race. Like I said, I think we'll know probably a quarter mile into this race the way things are shaping up to a certain extent. You know, we're also assuming all these horses break cleanly. You might remember last year, Tom's d'Etat had the stumble after the break. That really threw that race off, I think, to a certain extent. And so, you know, look, there are a lot of unknowns, but I think the knowns that there are, we've done a really nice job here of weaving through using Stats Race Lens. So thank you to Ellis and Christina for doing that. Christina, any last word on this race?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it pretty well. I feel like we didn't give Maxfield a whole lot of attention for a horse that's, you know, 7 for 8 lifetime at the top of the NTRA poll. I think we should, you know, say we're taking nothing away from Maxfield, but maybe in a shorter field, he doesn't quite get the setup, right? If you think about a bigger pool, more runners, it might end up more to his liking.
Well, Christina, using Dan's analogy of talking about horses you run against, the Maxfield beat Warriors Charge, Visitant, Express Train, and Sprawls. I mean, not Express Train, and Sonneman. So I don't know that those are top of the list either.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the horses look just on another planet the last couple of races. So, if he runs back to those races, he's going to be tough. If Knicks Go runs back to, Knicks Go of last year or something similar to the Cornhusker, though I don't think he's going to be able to get away with 110-3 here. I think Knicks Go is also very intimidating, and I like the cases you both made for By My Standards, a very logical, playable horse who I think you're going to get, again, barring any scratches between now and Saturday, every bit of that 10-1 price on, and certainly, an intriguing play if you're alive in a pick 5 and you're looking to beat one of the top 2. It'd be great to beat them with By My Standards. So I like that. All right, this has been a lot of fun, as always, doing Stats Race Lens. These webinars really open my eyes up while I'm doing them to a bunch of things that I missed while I was handicapping. And I think if you haven't utilized the product yet, haven't had a chance to really dig into it, we've only scratched the surface here. So we'd encourage you to look into Stats Race Lens, go to equibase.com right now. Promotion only through the NHC, special promotion for the NHC. If you use promo code NHC50, you can get a 1-month subscription, unlimited, for $50. That's promo code NHC50. And if you want a quarterly subscription, that's only $99, a steal when you consider the price is usually $299. I guarantee you after a couple of months using Stats Race Lens, you will find that it adds a whole lot of value into your process. You're going to find horses you wouldn't have otherwise found. So check that out. 2 special offers, promo code NHC50 for the $50 monthly, or NHC99 for the quarterly at $99. All right, that's going to do it for now. For Ellis and Christina, I'm Dan. This has been fun. Good luck this weekend. We'll see you next time.